So you might not know that Lucifer is loosely based off of a comic book series, but the show still pays subtle homage to its original source. Lucifer is continuing to be one of the most popular shows around right now, with its religious references giving it a unique and original feature. But what's not so original about it is that it's actually based off of a comic book series, and although the show has gone in a different direction, a lot of the primary foundations are the same. But just because the show's gone in a different route doesn't mean that it doesn't make references to the source that inspired it. In this video, we will take a look at 15 different comic book references and Easter eggs that you may have missed in the show. From subtle callbacks to original character designs, Easter eggs that only superfans would pick up on, and even references to darker, abandoned plot lines from the comics, get ready to journey through the 7 layers of hell as we return to Lucifer's domain. Oh, there's nothing like brotherly love, right? In Season 1, Lucifer and his brother Amenadiel have somewhat of a strained relationship, but eventually make amends through the course of the series. But early on, the two had some pretty back-and-forth banter, with Lucifer in the pilot making an offhand comment that he's looking forward to eating Amenadiel's heart, as you do.
I look forward to eating your heart one day.
That's not just the devil messing around. In fact, it's actually a reference to a rather dark moment in the comics where Lucifer literally eats his brother's heart. Yeah, it's not surprising that this only happened in the show as an offhand joke. While the Lucifer in the show may be a smooth-talking Brit with a devilish stare and chiseled abs and… sorry, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, in the comics, he actually has a rather different look, with the character being inspired by music legend and cultural icon David Bowie. The comic book Lucifer has blonde hair with green eyes, as opposed to Tom Ellis's deep, dark brown eyes that look into your soul. The show may have changed the devil's look, but the writers wanted to pay homage to the original style with making a reference to Satan's hair color. When Lucifer descends upon a satanic cult, a man at the door asks him, "Aren't you supposed to be blonde?" which is a reference to his comic book hair color. Don't worry, Tom, we wouldn't change a thing. As we mentioned, the show often deviates from the source material, such as the character's look, but now and then they do take words right off the page. We know Lucifer has a strained relationship with his father, God, and he has a deep dislike for him.
He will not be merciful for much longer.
So, the writers decided to pull a monologue from the comic books of Lucifer voicing his disdain for his father with the "Devil Made Me Do It" monologue, with Ellis smashing the speech he delivers to Linda. Look, let's face it, Neil Gaiman is pretty awesome. The writer of works such as Good Omens and American Gods, Gaiman was actually the man who brought Lucifer to life, introducing the character in his Sandman series. The Lucifer series wanted to pay homage to the character's creator by making him God. In the alternate universe, where Chloe's father never died, we hear the voice of God through narration. Of course, the voice is provided by the great Neil Gaiman, who, despite the changes to the comic book iteration, described the show's Lucifer as a sexy, mad, bad Doctor Who, which isn't wrong. But Gaiman's voice isn't his only appearance on the show. Well, at least isn't the only reference. We mentioned a couple of Gaiman's other works, but he has written and created a lot, and some of his other works made its way onto the show, most of which come through Trixie. In Season 1, Chloe asks Dan, "She conned you into reading the book about the sneezing panda, didn't she?" which is a reference to the children's book Tuesday, which is written by Gaiman. We also see in Season 2 Trixie reading another book by Gaiman, Coraline. But in Season 4, Lucifer made reference to the showrunner Joe Henderson, with Trixie reading his comic book Skyward. She really is a bookworm. Neil Gaiman isn't just God. He also wrote the book on Norse mythology. Literally. For all fans of Vikings and the new god of war, you may be familiar with some aspects of Norse mythology, such as Ragnarok, or gods such as Thor and Odin. You may also be familiar with Yggdrasil, the Tree of Life. But what you may not know is that it also makes an appearance in Lucifer, as a chandelier. But it's not just the chandelier that's the same design in the comics. In fact, Lux as a whole is strikingly similar to how it's portrayed in the comics, and it is a huge testament to the work of the art department and production team who brought it to life. The attention to detail is crazy, with the mirror walls and light fixtures being almost identical, and even the mirror placement is the same. Bravo, Lucifer production team! So we already mentioned that Lucifer likes to pay homage to Gaiman a lot, but he's not the only writer who gets a shout out. In the episode #Team Lucifer, we see a satanic cult where one of the members is framed for murder before being killed himself. That Satanist goes by the name Corazon, but his actual legal name, because apparently Corazon is a made-up name, who knew, is actually Mike Carey, who is the writer of the original Lucifer series. While Mike Carey, or should I say Corazon, doesn't have much impact in terms of plot development or in the overarching story, it is a nice little nod to the writer who made this all possible, and a nice little Easter egg for die-hard fans to catch. The character of Chloe doesn't actually exist at all in the comic book series, but fans have often speculated that she's a stand-in for one of the major comic book characters, Elaine Belloc. In the comics, Elaine is actually a human-angel hybrid and is conceived via the demiurgic power vested in her father, Michael Demiurgos. Chloe doesn't have the exact same origin, but she does have links to Elaine's origin story. Penelope and John Decker are having trouble conceiving until Amenadiel blesses Penelope and gives her the power to conceive. While not exactly like for like, it does feel like a reference to Elaine's comic book origins. One of the big differences between the show and the book is the look of the character Mazikeen. In the comics, she has a disfigured face and wears a Phantom of the Opera-style mask to cover it. While she does have the disfigured face and mask in the series, she doesn't always show it, and we only actually see the mask in one episode. In the alternate universe episode, Maze follows Lucifer to Earth and works at Lux as a waitress. And in order to hide her disfigured face, she wears a comic book-accurate mask, a white mask that resides on the left side of her face. As well as the mask, we also get to see Maze's real-life face in the show as well. Maze is very shy when it comes to her face and decides to hide it so that she's more aesthetically pleasing to humans and doesn't end up standing out in a crowd. In the comics, the left side of her face is composed of exposed muscle, bone, and even brain, and not something she apparently wants to show people. But in the Halloween episode, she finally gives us a brief glimpse of it, but becomes embarrassed by it and passes it off as a Halloween mask. The reason why her face is only shown briefly could be the amount it would cost for VFX, with the angel wings taking up a big chunk of the VFX budget. In terms of the different angel wings, the show actually stays pretty accurate to the original material. Lucifer's may be big, white, and ethereal, but the wings all resemble different types of birds. These different wings usually serve as character traits and how they'll impact the story. For example, Remmel's wings are reminiscent of a peregrine falcon, one of the top hunters and fastest birds, with them using their wings and pointed tails to make quick, powerful beats that allow them to fly at insane speeds, ruling the skies and soaring down to decimate their prey. Oh, sorry, I got distracted again. Peregrine falcons and Tom Ellis are my Achilles heel. This works for the character, seeing as he's a formidable adversary and is known for being a stubborn goose. Oh, maybe a goose would have worked too. As we said, while the show drifts and changes, the source material aspects do the same, even if they happen through different characters. One such instance is when Lucifer creates the second universe where he cuts open a hole to another dimension with the use of Azrael's blade, which gets the endearing name of Space Vagina, as you do when dealing with an interdimensional portal. There is a second universe that's created in the comics, but it's actually done by Lucifer's mom, not Lucifer. Subsequently, Lucifer's mom in the show goes on to have another family. You've gotta love family bonds. A lot of the major plot lines from the comic books didn't make it to the series for a variety of reasons, and one such example of this was the one where Mazikeen takes a trip to see her estranged siblings and ends up fighting them. In fact, she has some badass moments fighting off her siblings to earn the position of war leader of the Lilim in Exile via trial by combat. One of the siblings she fights and has to defeat is named Gaudium, and he has a brief Easter egg in the show. When Pierce opens up his filing cabinet at the end of the third season, we see 5 marked folders, one of which reads Gaudium, a reference to Mazikeen's bro. While this last entry may not be a reference to the original comic books, or really comic books in general, it does refer to a comic book character, and we wanted to include it in here. In one episode, Lucifer says he wants to find Pierce's kryptonite. This, as you probably know, is a reference to Pierce actor Tom Welling, who played Clark Kent, aka Superman, in Smallville for 10 years before going into retirement. And he only came back out of retirement to join up with the Lucifer crew, hence the cheeky little joke at his expense. So, did you catch all these Easter eggs? Are you a fan of both the comic books and the show? Are there any we missed? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to the channel today for this and more Lucifer content.